Hey guys, here today with another Shirogorov knife video. Today we have in front of us a custom stellar. This was one of the auction pieces that was available on Saturday at the California Custom Knife Show 2022. And fortunately I was able to talk to the auction winner and get this piece off him for this review video, so very much appreciate that. Wanted to go over some of the differences compared to the non-inlay model. That you can see here. Obviously this has an inlay of Damascus, and also talk about Sergey's new blade finishes, since they're quite refined finishes and very interesting to talk about. So first, like all the other customs, I like to go over the coin here. You can see that this is a stellar. The blade is S125V with a smoky mirror finish. The handle is titanium with Damascus accents for the inlay, and the pivot system is double row roller bearings. This knife was made in October 2022, obviously for the California Custom Knife Show. Now, going over the size, you can see here compared to some of Sergey's most famous models, the Neon and the F95, the stellar falls in between here. Given Shirogorov's measurement system, we have the F95 at 95 millimeters, the Neon at 85 millimeters, so it'd stand to make a pretty good guess that the stellar is looking at 90 millimeters of blade length. What that really translates to is you're looking at around 3.5 inches, 3.75 inches of cutting edge. And if you measure straight across, you're looking at about 3.5 inches of blade length, which many people do find to be the perfect size. Now, taking a look at the blade here, we have an S125V blade as marked here on the pivot area. This has, of course, the stellar blade profile with the extract cut and the long sweeping swedge that runs across the top of the spine here. The blade is finished in that smoky mirror, and as you can see, the smoky mirror has kind of a haze going on here. Now, to do the smoky mirror and Sergey's scratched mirror finish, which is the other premium finish he offers, he does a full mirror polish of the blade and then tumbles it in some media afterwards. Now, to get the scratch mirror, obviously you're having more scratches, more obvious scratches, which is probably going to be the best for hiding wear. The smoky mirror gives you this sort of hazy finish, which I think is good for general use. If you're not, expecting to scratch your blades, this should hide wear fairly well, but obviously not as well as the scratched mirror finish. However, it does look a little bit more refined in my opinion. The blade flats are satin finished, and the swedge is also done in that smoky mirror as well. Really hard to get here since not too much of an angle here, but if you can take a look here at the edge, you can see some of that smoky mirror going on. Now, like all the other customs, you can see there is just much attention applied to all facets of the blade here. You can see the pivot area is highly polished. All facets of the flipper tab are also highly finished. Really excellent work here. You can see underneath, behind the ricasso here, really nicely polished. It's really amazing to see how much work and time Sergey spends into not only the blade, but also the rest of the knife, of course. But with these new smoky and scratch mirror finishes, it's just amazing to see every part of the blade has received some kind of detail here. With all the swedges on the stellar too, you're really getting this amazing light play as the blade reflects all the light here. It really looks nice in this light box. Unfortunately, my light box is pretty crappy. I do apologize for that. Moving on to the handle here, you can see that we have a Damascus inlay here. Now, this inlay has been done on other models in the past. You can see this one is actually matte blasted Damascus. Damascus is something that Sergey does use along with black Damascus with the zirconium, but he does seem to use mokutai and zirkutai a little bit, like significantly more actually, in my opinion. So it's interesting to see some Timascus here. It's always nice to see some different materials. And this matte actually looks pretty nice in my opinion. It's pretty subdued, definitely not loud and out there. You know, some people not like it, but I do like this subtle look. Definitely something different and unique. Now, the inlay here actually functionally serves as the pivot collar. So you can see here we just have that large updated pivot screw. It is not the faceted pivot screw that we've seen on some of the PLDS knives. So very interesting here to see that it has not been updated for that, at least the non-PLDS knives. But we do have that larger pivot screw here. You can take a look at the milling on the handle. It is slightly different compared to the normal full custom Stellars. Of course, we have those horizontal lines, but we also have these radial lines that come out as well. Kind of lines up with some of the milling on the inside of the inlay and also the curves where the inlay terminates. Other than that, the contouring on the top and the bottom and the overall general handle dimensions, of course, are nothing different from any of the other Stellars. Moving on to the clip side, you can see here we have some more of that beautiful horizontal and radial milling. We also have the clip here. It looks like the Stellaris that came at the show for Lotto also had a similar clip design. I can't really remember what the old Stellars were like, but I don't remember them having this kind of inset milling here with, actually, if you take a look, there's actually some texture in here as well. Oh, there we go. I think the camera's catching it. You can see there's some texture in here as well. If I remember correctly, one of the things that differentiated the custom from the custom division was a smooth clip here. And some people might find the lack of milling to be somewhat lacking, or the lack of milling to be somewhat less feature filled, but to actually finish titanium like that and get those curves and have it be exactly smooth takes a lot of hand finishing work, which is, in my opinion, I think why Sergey prefers having these smooth surfaces compared to having textures. It's just really easy to run and end mill and get those texture surfaces. So I find that interesting to see that we're getting a textured surface back here on the clip compared to the custom Stellars that first came out. But it is pretty nice to run your fingers over. It's very, very small. And again, unless you're looking at the right angle, you can almost miss those details here. The screw and the backspacer are actually also Timascus. Now this one isn't too hard to make out. If I can get it to capture, you can see the layers here. It's just matte blasted and it's a side cut, so you can see the layers of the Timascus. But the screw is also Timascus, actually. You can't really tell unless the screw is out, but it's just satin finished on the top here. So with the satin being, this really high grit, high polished satin, you're really just seeing the satin effect instead of the actual layers of the Timascus here. Now, of course, like all other custom Stellars, we also have the 4 pins of uniform thickness. I believe they are 2 millimeters. Let me take a look here. Actually, I think they're 1.5 millimeters thickness, so the same diameter as normal roller bearings at least. We have 4 of them here, and then also 1 on the back of the pommel area to act as a guard to prevent the tip from cutting your finger open. With this swedge here, it actually is quite an aggressive tip compared to other knives. You can see it comes to a very fine point. Excellent centering as always, and taking a look from the top here, you can see the beautiful long swedge that runs from kind of the area where you would expect the jimping to be all the way to the edge of the knife, the edge of the point here. Now if you take a look here, you can see that there are some internal screws right here on the other side that hold in the inlay. So the inlays are blind screwed, and the inlay also acts as an indexing point. The screw has kind of a D-shaped cut in to the back side of it, and that interfaces with the inlay, which also has a D-shaped cutout. So kind of a upgrade to the normal ball bearing and 2 dimples on the handle and the pivot screw that we've been seeing on the Custom Division Customs. Not quite at the same level as the production Hot Gen 3 with the CPS captured pivot system, but definitely a nice way to utilize the inlay for some sort of functional purpose as well. Of course, like all Stellars, we have a tab lock here. This portion right here extends over the handle so that you can't get your finger stuck in between the handle and the lock. I especially hate that. Being a lefty, I always get my finger, you know, when I'm disengaging the lock this way, I always get my finger trapped in between the scale and the scale and the lock. So I really love this design here that really makes it so you can't get your finger stuck in there, and also it just gives, you know, shows Sergey's attention to detail when developing these things. You can see when the blade is closed, it forms kind of this contouring of the handle here. Really nice work. And of course, like all other Stellars, we have a satin finish on the inside of the steel lock bar. Don't think the camera is going to be able to capture that, but really nicely finished on the lock bar as well. Unfortunately, you just can't see those details on the inside. Like all other customs, or most other customs, sorry, this is running on double row roller bearings. This is using the micro rollers, 1 millimeter diameter. And unlike other knives that have been coming out recently with the PLDS pivot load distribution system, this actually still has the phosphor bronze double row roller bearings. So the cage has a ring around it of phosphor bronze, and that effectively seals the bearings. You can see here, if you take a look real closely, you can see the phosphor bronze. So you get, with that very thin ring of phosphor bronze on the outside, you get this sealing effect of washers, since there's, you know, hard contact between the blade and the handles. But you also, because the area is so thin of phosphor bronze that's touching, you're really not getting that you know, sluggish action that you would get with washers. And the blade is mainly supported by all of the double row roller bearing system inside, which is pretty much the best of both worlds. If you take a look here, this knife is has a very nice snappy action with very nice fascia as well. That's pretty much it for this one. Can't remember if I did a Stellar video. I did have a Stellar here that I was taking a look at. There was a non-inlay version. So hopefully that can be, this is kind of an update in comparison to the non-inlay version. Of course, looking forward to taking a look at other Stellars in the future. And again, really appreciate my friend for having this one over. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys again next time.